y'all doing? Everything good? Good. Well, excited to be back. Ready finally for a true game week. Our guys had practice yesterday. Obviously, the last 72 hours have been different for us, but Friday and Saturday, our players and families and teams spent a lot of time making sure that everybody was kind of squared away, and those that had damage had opportunities to be helped and make sure that they were okay to get their mind clear for the school week and for game week. And players came out really focused. Was proud of them yesterday. We had about an hour and a half practice and uppers, and guys were ready to get back out on the field and get after it. So we're excited to be back and be back into game week.
Major, I was curious when the guys came back, and you typically have a meeting Sunday night and gather them, what the message was, and how do you kind of try, I don't want to be insensitive, try to move on from
Right.
what's happened and maybe get their minds back on football, a little bit of normal routine?
Well, you don't move on. You know, you have to compartmentalize, and that's one thing we talked about last week is, you know, we've got to compartmentalize what is and what we've got to do, and that's a great lesson for us to learn. Young in this age, as you get older, guys, I'm not far removed from where you were sitting in these seats as a college football player, but a wife changes things, a job changes things, a child changes things. There's a lot of things that will pop up that are very, very important to you. And then there's also things that you have to do because it's your occupation or it's your passion or your hobby, and you've got to compartmentalize those thoughts and that energy to be able to go do those things. So we talked about last week being last week. The things that are most important to us, our family, our health, none of those things have changed from this room. So when we're in this room, we're compartmentalized in terms of what we're thinking and what we're doing, and giving ourselves the best opportunity to win by trusting our process and our training and the way we want to do things each and every day.
If you're about ballpark figure, what percentage of your team would you say has been affected either from homes, property, from what happened?
It's hard to tell, but direct family, you know, just immediate family, excuse me, probably 10 to 15 kids directly affected by it. You know, and I'm talking about, like, you know, families having to move out of their house. But, you know, family structures are very different. So there's aunts, there's grandmothers that mean a lot to a lot of our football players, and that raises that number even more. And then there's some people whose health situations change because they've had to move out of assisted care living and move into different homes and things like that. So it's affected all of them to some extent because of teammates, even the ones that don't live in Houston or have family in Houston. They're still, you know, housing teammates who've lost apartments and lost homes and things like that.
Coach, I saw on Twitter that DJ Small had a few teammates go and help him out with his homes. Has there been any other homes that the team has went out and helped out, or is there a plan in place of what you guys are going to do to try to help out, whether it's the community or within the team?
We had a lot of different groups go out with their units, so it was by position. So the defensive backs went out and helped DJ. I know Dylan had some running backs that went out and helped him. You know, so it was all based on need and based on kind of by position, and that's what our plan was Friday and Saturday. And if you were one of those that needed help from your position, they were there to help you. You know, we also had coaching staff members. We had 2 guys on the offensive staff whose homes flooded. So offensive staff members were by Friday and by Saturday to check on, make sure that Coach Casey and Coach Johnson had what they needed, could assist them, and just trying to get, whether it's insurance, you know, claims adjusters, or people to dry the floors out, all those type of things, just make sure that we were taking care of one another. But then also we had, you know, a great opportunity for our players to take all the goods that we collected there in Austin and take them to, you know, to a center or a shelter there that was able to provide for a community that didn't have a lot, quite honestly. And it's eye-opening when you have that opportunity to go see, you know, what some are lacking, just the base necessities. And so for our staff, our wives, our players to see that, I think that was a really good moment, really good learning experience for all of us.
Major, to piggyback off of that, do you have any players that have requested and extended, you know, stay away from the team to handle urgent family stuff because of the floods?
They're all back. Everybody was back at practice yesterday. Everybody was back, and everybody's situation's different. And you know, we had some guys that stayed in Houston just because of concerns, because, you know, one needed medical help and is living in Houston, but his family's in the Northeast, and he was the only relative to be able to help, so stay and help. Another one had a child that he wanted to stay back with that had genuine concerns and was really worried about his living situation, so stay back. And we understand that those are family situations, and then we also understand as a football team we make up that work. You know, we all do the same amount of work, so we make up the work that we miss when we're not with the football team, and we go from there.
And just to follow up, do you have any, I guess you asked the players, or you got players kind of staying with players until situations resolve, that kind of stuff?
Yes, sir. Yep.
To follow up on the previous answer that you gave with helping with the 18-wheelers and all that, how do you feel like the team, their camaraderie was built up? I know you guys missed your first game, so that was kind of a downer, but do you feel like the you know, doing all this heavy lifting, you know, actually helping the community, do you feel like that was a big help for your team to build that camaraderie that you guys didn't get to build in this first game?
Yeah, I don't know about so much camaraderie, you know. I think that really comes through more or less playing, practicing together, hard practices, wins, you know, going through things more from a competitive stage. I think it just taught us all, coaches included, you know, a little bit about ourselves and kind of where our obligations need to be. You know, I feel that as a former athlete, maybe that's just former athletes speaking through me. You know, when I visited hospitals, it was more about the impact you can have on someone, how you can brighten someone's day, how you can support someone. It wasn't really a camaraderie building moment. You know, those were built in hard workouts, tough workouts that wore you out, that broke your team down, or very difficult fourth quarter comebacks. That's where, you know, the camaraderie, esprit de corps kind of all accumulated from.
Probably the first couple days back, a big question will be about focus. Were you able to get a good feel for the focus of the team last night, and then going back into what you guys expect for them to really get dialed in starting tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, that was number one. You know, when we walked in last night and talked to the team, you know, said number one, everybody all right, everybody good, everybody got everything you need. Okay, great. You know, don't be modest about it, don't be humble about it. If you need help, ask for help. You know, so we can get everybody's mind locked in. All right, now that we're locked in, what is our routine? You know, back to our routine. How do we prepare? How do we prepare our minds? How do we prepare our bodies? What kind of premium do we put on our preparation versus our opponent's preparation? How do we focus on us? We watched a lot of football. We watched a ton of football Friday and Saturday, I'm sure, as a football team. So either we can learn from obedience or we can learn from experience. And learning from experience is the way that fools learn. So let's watch what happened in some college football games. Let's see some substitution errors. Let's see some delay of game errors. Let's see a special teams error where a punter goes down with the football and takes a knee. I mean, let's learn all the little things that we can, and let's be conscious of it, because we did lose that game experience. So that's a fact. So that being said, let's learn from what we watched on television and see all the many first-week mistakes that we can go out and focus on and be mindful in practice, you know, whether it be substitutions, just simply substitutions in and out. We always know it's Group 1's turn to go, and then it's Group 2's turn to go. And we take for granted when the coach blows the whistle and says it's the 2's up, oh, it's just my turn. No, we're repping a substitution in a game. We're repping the flow of a game. So we really went back and talked about, you know, number one, are we all here? We're all safe. And then, you know, number two, let's train our preparation. You know, let's train, let's understand what our preparation is, let's trust our process in that, and then let's pull from the games that we watched on Friday and Saturday because we lost those game reps.
Major, what has it been like for you to try to juggle all this? I know your game plans and getting the team ready to play is one thing, having to juggle all this with 100+ players and staff and coaches. How have you been able to manage everything that's come with the last week?
Just take it as it goes. You know, I mean, you have a plan for what you want to do when you're here in this building, but obviously that gets thrown out the window the minute you go to a hotel and you're having to move from this hotel to that hotel, and then the game might be played. But all that's in the past. I mean, and we talked to the team last night, and we said, you know, for this building and the way we talk about it, that's last week. Now, for our city and our families, that's months to come. But in terms of what we do in this building, that is last week. And that's where we've got to put things. That's last week. Now, there's going to be times in your day where you're not going to, you know, when you're awake for 15 hours, you're not going to be practicing football. So use your time wisely, compartmentalize that time when it's time to help your city and time to help your family do that. And organize your schedule and make sure that you have it compartmentalized again to be able to do those things.
For those players that have been directly affected, how normal can your game week be? Because obviously some of these things aren't going to go away, so to speak, for some of these guys. How can you get it normal without better?
Well, the number one thing is we've got people living, you know, where they're going to live for right now. We've got people transportation. They know that school starts back tomorrow, and you know that's really what an athlete wants more than anything is just a ritual, a routine that they can sink their teeth into and trust and get into, and they just want that structure. And that's the same thing as a 19, 20-year-old. So a lot of normalcy will come back for them tomorrow when they enter class and they have practice in the afternoon and they just start filing into their routine. But haven't had any distractions. That's been the position coach's job, the head coach's job, football operations to go through each player individually and, you know, do you have shelter? Do you have food? Do you have transportation? Are all those basic things covered? Okay, where are they? How are they getting covered? So we can figure out, okay, this guy doesn't really have it quite buttoned up. We need to assist him and make sure that he's, you know, got some other things in place so it's not a distraction for him throughout the week.
Major Arizona in their opener, I believe they ran for 506 yards. This team, your team, has been really good against the run for several years. Can you kind of, do you expect, I mean, is that their MO? Do you expect that, or they didn't really pass a lot? So I'm just kind of curious what you could gather from that, what their offense really looks like.
Well, they can do both. They can do both. They didn't do both the other night, but they can do both. I've watched Coach Rodriguez and Calvin McGee and Rod Smith's offenses for years, and they've been together at West Virginia, and they've been together at Michigan. They've been together at Arizona now, and they're going to play with great pace. They're going to run the football. They're going to allow their quarterback to be a part of their run game. If need be, they will throw the football. I have seen them throw for 300, 400, 500 yards before. It's not rare for them to do that. But if they don't have to, they're not going to. They're going to play with great pace, and they're going to run the football at you. And they're going to do it for 4 quarters, and they're a very conditioned football team, very mentally tough football team. Their quarterback is very efficient with what they ask him to do. You know, and he does a great job of, you can tell he's very comfortable. You can tell he's a very comfortable quarterback in their system, makes great plays. You know, reminds me of Greg just from his confidence and competitiveness within his offense. You can tell he takes control of their offense and does a great job with it. And you know, did a great job finishing up last year, and their backup got in some the other night, and he's a great player as well. So they got some depth at their quarterback position offensively, defensively. You know, they played with, like I said, they've got about 6 guys, 7 guys coming back off that defense. But they're playing with great effort. Playing with great effort, give you a lot of different looks, a lot of different fronts. It's kind of what you would imagine from an offensive head coach to want that defensively, a team that can give you 4 down, 3 down, bear looks, try to mix things up in the game plan to disrupt your run game.
Coach, any decision on the quarterback position, and if not, how they looking?
Yeah, we'll announce all that Friday before we play the game. But both of them have competed really well thus far, and they'll continue to compete this week through practice.
I don't know if it's just quarterback or in lieu of depth chart. That's do you, and the fact that we don't talk to you again until Wednesday. Is there anything you can share depth chart other than quarterback? Any decisions that have been made, whether it's, you know, offensive line or corner?
No, I mean, you know, you've seen our depth chart, and it changes daily. You know, it changes daily because of performance. It changes daily because of injury. You know, our guys are always going to understand that they're competing each and every day, and that there's never a position sewed up or locked up on this roster. And I want everybody, especially the guys that are getting the 1s and 2 reps, to know that they're 1 play away from starting. Or I want them to understand that. And that's the way they've got to prepare, and that's the way they're going to be focused going into the week and going into the game on Saturdays. All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.